clean up in water and detergent. Let's have a closer look at this nugget. It's displaying some degree of roundedness, however it is essentially fairly ragged and indicates really that it hasn't moved too far from its source, and I would speculate that it's actually come from the reef about 100 metres uphill from it, which had been worked and obviously had been shedding gold into the gully from which this came, since there were costians and diggings all along that gully from just downhill of that reef I mentioned. The other side shows us a similar story. We've got quite a ragged appearance with just the outside edges a little bit smoothed over. So quite an interesting little piece of gold, that one. Tells us quite a bit. Now, looking at the quite rough character of the gold that I found, suggests to me that it hasn't travelled far. And in this diagram we can see the various elements in the scenario in which I found this gold. You got here the reef. Now this is reef excavation, so we know that this reef here was gold bearing and had shed gold. So the chances are, being uphill from where I found the gold, is that this gold is actually from this reef. So this reef would have shed gold, represented by those yellow dots, downhill basically in all directions. Downhill in present day is down to this gully here, and all directions down here to this main excavated gully. This is a side excavated gully, and these here, firstly we've got costians. So the first thing we notice on this gully is costians. What a costian is they dig a trench across the line of the gully and test for gold, because they don't know whether the gold's going to be there or over here, so they just dig a whole trench across in the hope of detecting gold. If they haven't found gold then they'll dig another costian, because maybe the gold is further down. And obviously they've found gold here, so they've gone on to dig holes. They've dug a hole there, and they've dug another hole there, then they dug a bigger hole here. So they must have been getting progressively better yields of gold until they got to a point where they probably said, what the hell, let's just dig the whole gully out. So then they continued to dig this whole gully out. No individual holes, they just dug the whole lot out, chucked the mullock, what we call the refuse, or the topsoil, off to the side, and after the topsoil's been removed, they remove the gravel, or what we call the wash, the gold bearing wash, onto the side as well. Then they scoop up that wash from the mullock heaps and take it away, sluice it, put it through puddlers and so forth to extract the gold. But quite often they used to miss a few pieces of gold, which ended up remaining in these mullock heaps, which is where we come in. And we come along with our detectors, and occasionally we get lucky and we detect one that's been left behind. And this is the case with this particular nugget here. So this whole setup with the holes and the costians and so forth tell us the whole story of how gold from a reef, gold bearing quartz reef, ends up in a gully, and how I ended up detecting this gold, which was most likely from that reef, and that reef had shed thousands of years ago probably. So the distance between there and there would have been maybe 100 metres or so. And it's worn a little bit, but it still retains its fairly ragged character. So that's why we can tell that it has travelled, but it hasn't travelled that far.